Hello, everybody. Today's first review is going to be of Predator Badlands, which, oh my god, this movie was absolutely fantastic. I think the crew that is behind the new Predator movies is going to be, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, just going to be phenomenal, I guess. They really seem to want to tell the history, excuse me, of the Yautja and all that other stuff, and I think we're going to learn a lot more about like the ranks in the Yautja as well and how they work if you don't already know. Now, I've looked up a lot of the lore on YouTube videos explaining it, but I can't retain it all. But I do know that the Yautja in this one was fairly young, and I guess like a dishonor to his family. I guess kind of like the weakest link. So I guess in the Yautja culture, they just kill the weakest one in the family or the clan, as they called it, and that's that. There is no real like other rules. You're either strong and able to uh, protect the clan or the family that you're with, or you're not. And of course, the father in this didn't really think either of his sons were strong enough, but one was still much stronger than the other, so he chose, I guess, the strongest out of the two of them to continue on. But we'll go over the cast list before we really get into the rest of the story anyway. So we had Elle Fanning playing Thea and Tessa, Demetrius Schuster, Colum Tangi, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, who voiced Deck and Father, Ravi Narayan, who voiced Bud. Uh, so I guess like it's kind of an interesting thing. So I guess one person did like the suit work, and sometimes one person would do the voice. So it's kind of cool. So Michael Hommick was the suit, and Stephen Grube was the voice of Kwai. Allison Wright was the voice of Mother, who I don't really think we know who that is yet, but obviously somebody who's much higher up in the company that Thea and Tessa were created by, which is Wayland Yutani Corporation. So, going to be looking. I think they're going to be doing a much deeper dive into all of that as well, probably in the next movie. Now I know there's an animated Predator movie as well that came out earlier this year, and I still have to watch it as well. And apparently it explains a little bit more, so I'm really looking forward to watching that as well. And then we had Matt Duffer and Ross Duffer as Quiet's ship computer, and then Ruben DeJong, who was the father but played the suit part, so did the suit part. So that's kind of cool. And I feel like everybody that was part of this film deserved to be listed here, right? So even if I don't talk about them, the people who did the suit work again, I just thought, they deserved the mention. So basically, this young Yautja, um, Deck, is trying to obviously prove himself to his clan and to his father. So now he has to go on this mission to find the most brutal creature, I guess, that they know of anyway, called the Kalisk, or Kalisk. I think it was Kalisk, if I'm not mistaken, was how they pronounced it. And so he goes to the planet Ghana, which is known as the Death Planet, and boy, did it live up to its name throughout this movie. And so when he gets there, actually, he was knocked out on the ship before it even left Yautja Prime, which is his planet. So he was knocked out on the ship. It starts hitting this minefield, and then the ship obviously gets damaged so much that he has to eject himself from the ship in this tiny little pod. And then he gets thrown into the forest. And right from the beginning, even the forest is alive. Like the forest tries to take all of his weaponry, and of course he's miles away from the actual like crashed ship. So not going to be able to get back to that. So he's going to have to kind of adapt. And I think this movie really did show just how like far advanced and smart the Yautja actually were. Um, just because he was so easily able to like think on the fly. Like even when the forest was attacking him, he always had like a counter for almost everything. And I thought that was kind of cool because usually we see that kind of connected with the mask, that the mask normally helps with those types of things, but he seemed to be smart enough on his own with just the knowledge he had, that he seemed to be able to adapt to any kind of like battle situation. So he was obviously, kind of bred for that. I guess in the Yautja culture, each Yautja kind of has like a rank, and I guess they have to prove themselves, obviously, that they're not weak, right? They have to do like their own hunt kind of thing. And I guess his brother Kwai had already done his, so he had somewhat proven himself, even though their father might not have been completely proud of them. And it was just kind of cool to see like the ranks and the cloaking device, uh, that obviously Kwai and Deck didn't have, but their father did. So I guess that was all part of, growing up and becoming stronger as a Yautja, obviously, was to get the cloak. That was like another step in the right direction, right? And some of the skulls that I noticed on the wall, obviously the one in the trailer was like the T-Rex, the most noticeable one, but it looked like they had maybe killed uh, other alien species as well. I can't name all of them, but it looked like they had maybe even taken out some other predators along the way too. And we know that obviously, I guess predators are enemies of predators, right? So they take out the weaker ones, and they may have even taken out another whole like clan of predators at one point in time, because I believe there was a predator skull on the ship with Deck. So yeah, I'm gonna have to. There's so much stuff going on in this movie that you kind of have to look in the behind the scenes too to notice. But they had all the normal weaponry, like the shoulder cannon. Forgive me for not maybe remembering the exact name of it, but the sword thing was new as far as I remember. Um, Maybe it's not, but I don't remember it ever being in any of the older Predator movies. Now, obviously, like the wrist gauntlet with the two uh, blades in it, that's been there before, and the shoulder cannon and the mask. But the mask was a little bit different in this movie, that's for sure. Um, Now, obviously, each mask is unique to each different, rank of predator, I suppose. Um, but yeah, I feel like the masks were a lot different in this movie. So when he gets to the planet, the first creature we ever see is the vulture that almost attacks him. That attacks him in the air, and then obviously he's after the Kalisk, right, the entire time. The other creatures we see are the bone bison, the spitter eel, and then I guess Bud was also like the Kalisk's child. We find out later on in the movie, so that was pretty cool. There was one other tentacle creature in the forest that Thea did name, but I couldn't find anything on it on Google or anywhere actually. So I found like a little YouTube video of it, but he couldn't name the creature either. So I'm not exactly sure what they called it in the movie, but it kind of looked like it was like a pod almost with like these tentacles all around it, and he was able to uh, one slice the bone bison completely in half, and then he was able to go after this tentacle creature. We'll just call it the pod creature. um, and kill it as well. So I was like extremely impressed with how smart Deck was throughout this movie, because even though he had the help of Thea throughout the movie, she was never like quite as quick witted as he was. I know she was obviously like a cyborg, I guess, kind of thing, or like an artificial, like a robot, essentially, I guess is what she was. And she had like obviously like artificial intelligence knowledge, and she was only half a body in the beginning of the movie, and she was on the constant search for her legs. And when they got to the den of the Kalisk, that's when Deck kind of finds out that they're both after the same thing. Thea's after the Kalisk as well, and so is her so-called sister Tessa. Now, Tessa obviously is a little bit more of the company gal, and definitely the villain in this movie for sure. Now, when she kills the Kalisk at the end, I was like, seriously? It seemed like the Kalisk had defeated her, but she somehow was able to freeze it from the inside out, and I mean, she ends up getting killed anyway, after Deck kind of realizes that the real enemy isn't the Kayla's creature, that it's actually Tessa herself. So he brings back the skull of Tessa to his father when he returns to Yautja Prime, and he returns with Bud, who is now slowly growing up into a full-size Kalis himself, and that's going to be a danger when he grows up because now he's on the team with uh, Deck and Thea. So he's kind of found like his own family, I guess, and he does kill the guards that are with his father and his own father, um, to prove that he is obviously the better warrior out of the two of them. And then he is able to get the cloak off of his father. So that was all Deck really wanted, was just a little bit of appreciation for everything he had done. Even though he might not have been quite as strong as the rest of them, he definitely proved that he could fend for himself and think on the fly and so on and so forth. Now, the cool thing about this was obviously the Yautja language that was used in this movie, even in the songs, um, that were in the movie, was all in the Yautja language. So I thought that was so cool. And the other cool thing, obviously, was the practical effects that they used. So everybody that was, you know, that you saw, like at least the main predators that you saw, were all in makeup, and then they would just go back in and like VFX it a little bit so that it looked a little bit more predator-like, obviously. Because sometimes there would obviously be flaws in like the suit's movements and stuff, so they would go back in and touch that up. But I thought it was so cool that most of it was all just practical effects. Like, that's pretty amazing that they were able to do all of that with mostly just practical effects. So yeah, got to give them big kudos for that. And yeah, it just goes to show you that, CGI doesn't really need to be used in most movies today. And I feel like the practical effects with the VFX over top of it just made everything seem much more realistic. So yeah, I gotta give credit where credit is due, because they did a fabulous job with the last two movies. Like, Prey was really good, and this movie was just phenomenal as well. I gave it a 10 out of 10. Like, I can't I can't even say anything bad about the film. There wasn't anything that I found flawed in this movie at all. The storyline was great. Um, the action was fantastic. Now, I will say it could have had a little bit of a higher rating, honestly. I kind of thought that the PG-13 rating was a little low. It could have probably been a 14A movie, but I feel like they were kind of trying to keep some of the, like, it was almost like the nostalgia factor, like it was like a PG movie that would have been like back in like almost like the original Predator movie days. Like, how the ratings kind of changed, obviously. Now, I know Prey was rated R, but it was far more violent, I would say, than this one. Not that this didn't have its violence and kind of like scary moments. I don't think it would be a movie that I would be, bringing a kid to or anything. Uh, Definitely not, you know, um, yeah, definitely a movie I don't think I'd be dragging a younger kid to. Somebody that was teenager or above, maybe, but yeah, I think it could have had a little bit of a higher rating for sure, just with some of the violence and some of the scenes that were in the movie. Even though obviously the people in the movie were robots, or I guess synthetic, or whatever you want to call it, um, it still was pretty violent in certain parts. And I will say the coolest thing out of all of this is the Predator learning how to live off of the environment that he is in. So obviously, most of his weapons were stolen by Tessa throughout the movie. So he kind of had to adapt to the land. And thank God that Thea was there with him when he was going through all of the creatures. So he built armor out of the. He even built like a backpack for Thea out of the vines from the tree. So that was cool. And um, then he was able to. Obviously, he was able to adapt to the blade grass by cutting the tree down and so on and so forth. And then he actually was able to use the blade grass as a weapon, and even the little slugs that he picks up that exploded, he was able to use those as like the bombs that he would have normally had. And the bone bison, he used it as armor, like the, I don't know exactly what parts from the bone bison, but I'm assuming probably like the outer shell he used as armor. He was able to use the blade grass and create a whip out of it. So it was just so cool seeing all of the stuff he was able to do. And then even the plants that paralyzed him when the vulture was after him the second time, and Theo was able to help him and give him the antidote. Uh, he even used those plants. I can't remember for what, but there was something he used those plants for. And then the spitter eel was the one that set off the little slug things that blew up a lot of the people at the Wayland station. So, yeah, I mean, Deck was just so smart, and it really does show the advancements in the Yautja technology, and even them as a species, just how far advanced they are and what quick learners they are, and how they're just able to adapt so quickly. So, I'm looking forward to another, obviously, film in this franchise. Um, I think they're slowly kind of catching up with the Alien franchise finally. I can't remember exactly how many. Um, I guess if you count like the Alien versus Predator films, uh, two, I guess they would be kind of almost tied now because with the animated movie, I think they would be tied maybe. Because how many Alien movies are there? Well, there was only two Predator movies originally. I think was there four or five Alien movies? I can't remember exactly, but anyway, and then obviously Alien Romulus that just came out. So it might be five or six Alien movies now. And then you got Alien versus Predator. So I don't really know if you count those as Predator movies because the Predator makes appearances in them or not. But anyway, I feel like I've kind of rambled on enough here. Um, I guess I will see you guys in the next review. Bye bye for now.